Hello, hello, beautiful people. It is Ebony and Botany, and I'm here with Mr. Sean Bird. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No
He
problem, no problem.
has an amazing channel called Black Ambassadors that I recently came across, and I was very intrigued by his journey, his story. And as promised, I wanted to share with you guys some other entrepreneurs that I come across, that I run into, that I think have a lot of knowledge, tips, and advice to share with you guys. So, this is our episode 1 of Excellence with Ebony, and we are featuring the Black Ambassador. So I first and foremost want to say, if you have the opportunity, go check out his YouTube channel, go see what he's about. I think he has a lot of knowledge on there that you guys could pick up from him, a lot to share. And this channel is all about what I always say, sharing is caring, and spreading the love and the knowledge to help other people who either want to become entrepreneurs, who are entrepreneurs and are looking to have access to people who are doing things the right way, or just want to come in here and bounce some things or ideas off of people who are in the industry. So, drop your comments or your questions in the chat while we are live. I know I'm here in the US right now, so it is in the wee hours of the morning, but on the continent, with all my followers that are on the continent, it's like the middle of the afternoon in some places, so you guys should be wide awake and ready to go. So I'm going to start by letting you just kind of tell a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and what you do.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Thank you
You're
again
welcome.
for actually hosting me on the channel. I appreciate it. Hello to all the subscribers. Hello to all the supporters, the movement, the wave, everybody here that's spending their time and actually tuning in with us. I want to also give some positive, keep it clean, don't
All
slack.
right.
Everybody keep themselves safe. So I just wanted to mention that just because it's here. As of
Yes.
right now, I'm currently in Israel, Tel Aviv. This is where I currently work. I also do some investments and actually I'm working out this office space to invest. A little bit about myself is I was in the military, did that. I grew up in Columbia, Maryland. I grew up there all my life, spent time around the DMV. And then after that, average family, single mom, three of us. We grew up, had it a little rough, but we were in the suburbs, so it wasn't so bad as city life.
Mm-hmm.
And nevertheless, I joined the military, joined the Marines, did 7 years in the Marines, traveled the world majority of the time for 6 years, places in Barbados, Iraq, Thailand, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Philippines, all over the world, Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, Africa, Nigeria, uh, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa. So after I spent some time doing that, I didn't want to just return. I wanted to continue to be abroad, continue to just see different ways of life and perspectives. So I entered in the realm of contracting, and that's what I do. So I'm kind of like an inspector, as you could say. And I travel the world and I do that. That's in engineering. And nevertheless, I also mainly do investments. And now that's where I'm currently at, just investing. I know the show is particularly about entrepreneurs, but nevertheless, I invest in entrepreneurs. I'm not so much an entrepreneur myself. Even though the company and being an investor is somewhat, you could say,
Yes.
entrepreneur, but
Mm-hmm.
nevertheless, I do more so investing in other entrepreneurs that actually are hungry, are talented, and have the three keys in which I always highlight: people, product, and process. And that product could be a service too. So these are the three key components that I look for. And I invest all overseas. And I'm once again excited to be on the episode and I'm ready
Yeah.
to get into it.
Yeah, this is episode 1. And actually, that is really one of the key things I think is very interesting for you to say, that you invest in other entrepreneurs, because I have had a lot of questions where people are asking, like, how do you get in contact with people that support other entrepreneurs, or, how do you talk to someone who is looking, or they have all these ideas. I've had a couple people email me, say, I have all these ideas. Who do I take it to? Where do I get started? So that's something that maybe you could speak about, as far as like, what are you mentioned some of the key things that you look for, but when you come across people that are coming to you and say, oh, I have these bright ideas, I want to do this. And what is something that sparks your attention that or that makes you want to invest in somebody? Because I always give my advice is always kind of like, nobody wants to inherit another set of problems, right? I always say you need to come to them showing them what is it that you can do that's going to either solve a problem, what solutions do you have? You need to have your business plan together. Your pitch basically needs to be on point, so that it makes the person intrigued enough to want to go further into a conversation with you, and not just, oh, I've been trying for years to get off the ground, it's not working. You need to kind of have an organized pitch. So what are some things that, makes you look twice at somebody to say, okay, this person might have something that I'm interested in?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the most important things is, and I would say so much of foundation, but I like to think in holistic. It's not binary. And one of the most important things is people. The people, whether it's an individual entrepreneur, whether it's a two-man team, three-man team, or just a group of people at total, the most important thing is the actual people, the people, their desires, their hunger, their determination, and them. The key is action. Information is available with the IoT information of the Internet of Things, and we have all the amount of information and data. But the key point is action, an actionable person who really genuinely wants to make it happen. That is the key core component. Because if you look at what I said, the product, process, and the product or the service, those things can be revised. Those things can be revamped. But to revamp and revise a whole individual and where they want to go in their intentionality is a psychology. It's very deep. It's a adventure in itself, and it's very hard to do that. So when you find somebody who's young, determined, they might not have the greatest idea or the product or the process or none of that, but they're great in themselves and they're hungry and they're determined no matter what the product or the service is, and no matter how they can change and mold and be flexible to a process that they need to create. So those are the key things. So if anybody's wanting to inspire to do anything, then once again, you have to listen to the content, listen to the information. If nobody owns a business, then you're not listening to them. You listen
Right.
to people who own businesses. You listen to people who invest. You find the circles. You want to get into real estate investing, you get yourself in the REI, you get into a real estate investing association, and then you join that group. And now you're with like-minded people. There's going to be somebody who says, this kid has talent. This person is standing out. I'm going to take them under my wing. I'm going to mentor. I'm going to drop gems. And then you get to associate with peers that are, beginners and new volunteers and just finding out information. And then it's like a pool of information. You have social networking with
Right.
things like music videos. People see a music video, everybody utilizes on social, and everybody who likes Kanye, they all watch the video. Well, the
Right.
same thing goes for real estate investment. The same thing goes into entrepreneurship. You create that type of social media circle and you funnel yourself and your content and your attention towards that. And then that helps grow the team. And once again, it gives you that key component, people, 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 people.
So that goes down to, it sounds like, with your networking ability. So if you're in a position where, like you said, you may not have the resources to have the best business plan, or you may not have the resources to have your pitch in order, no matter where you are in the world, most people have access to social media in some shape or fashion. So joining those groups on Instagram or Facebook or whatever may be the case would be your first step to getting around a group of people that are like-minded.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
most definitely. And I want to just add this in, Facebook and Instagram are great, but also there are platforms, whether they're applications or softwares or web browsers or web applications that people create that are social networking platforms because we get social networking or social media connected with the brand, which is like Facebook or Instagram. Those are just
Mm-hmm.
brands, right? Coca-Cola is not soda, it's just a soda, along with Sprite and all these other things.
Right.
So when you go down to your networking and social media, it's not what we always look at is Facebook. Bigger Pockets is an example. It's of course a real estate investment platform, right? And
Right.
it's a social media platform, but it's not a Facebook. I mean, they have a page on Facebook, but they have their own web application that it's a social brand, and they do forums and they put out content and articles and information, and they have calculators. And so you go into that social media, not Instagram or Facebook, but that one. And that's where all the landlords are. That's where all the lenders are, the real estate agents, the multi-family investors, the single family home investors, the commercial space investors. And then
Right.
so we got to look at social media as other avenues and other brands that facilitate different type of activities and industries.
So yeah, so stop looking at it just as entertainment. If you're really trying to do something and be about something, you need to look at it as a resource.
Yes, and other brands besides
Oh,
Facebook and Instagram. There's other brands out there that have their own social
that's
media.
true. Yes, that's true. That's very true. Okay. So that is, I mean, I hope all y'all got that, or anybody that watches this later, he just dropped a huge gem on, how to find resources to get started on your entrepreneurial path, and how to get in front of like-minded people or people who will be in a position to help get your journey started. So in that sense, we just had Ebonie Davis join us. Good morning, Ebonie. I like that name. It's the same as mine.
Yeah.
So in that sense, and actually, what I'm going to put on here, I will also attach a link to your YouTube channel later. I know you have it in your title, but
Appreciate it.
I'll make sure I'll attach that a little bit later. I'm a novice at this, so eventually I'll have this all down. But I want to go into as well, how did your journey begin to being in the entrepreneurship realm? Because I know you said you invest in an entrepreneur, but that to me is still saying that you are an entrepreneur as well, because you're investing in, other people's businesses, whether it be a small investor. I also am a we call a silent investor in businesses in Tanzania. So, I think sometimes people don't understand there's different avenues of being an entrepreneur. One could be like when you're a silent investor, you don't have to run the business. You just provide the capital basically. And that means you're on the same page in the same direction of the vision of this business and where it's going. And, you believe in that. So you're just providing a lot of capital. And sometimes maybe you might be a part of the decision-making process. And then there's the people that actually do like storefronts where they're opening like a physical business, and they're running it with goods and services. And then there's, the other side of like investing in like real estate or buildings where you're not necessarily running it as you would a store, but you're dealing with the development of something. So could you speak a little bit to like maybe those differences and why you kind of ended up in the path that you're in?
Okay. And can you just shorten that and just bam one
Yes.
more time for the question?
Yes. So let's first address where your journey to entrepreneurship began.
Okay.
Like, some people, when people make the decision, go from like a 9 to 5, like I say, to I'm going to be my own boss, because that's a big leap.
Yeah. So definitely I had a mix of those, right? I was like, man, I was completely fine. I was in the military, following orders, right? Fighting my way up the ladder to be a sergeant, then a staff sergeant, and let's go, double. So I did that. Then I was like, okay, you know what? But I always knew they were going to get this out of me. I'm going to get something. It was going to be reciprocity. They were going to get their time and service out of me, and I was going to get my service out of them. So whether it be, of course, my college education while I was in the military, and then my college education benefits when I got out the military, that's almost 2 or 3 degrees straight from the military alone. So it's actually one of the coolest things about living in America, because I think militaries all over the world, and they don't give you nothing when you get out.
Right.
So, you just come out with a bag leg.
I'm a child of my dad was a naval officer, and I was not military like myself, but I got military benefits. And man, do I miss when I aged out, I miss those benefits.
Yeah. I mean, they're amazing. I would call them hacks to life.
Yes.
So those benefits and hacks to life are amazing. So I stayed in and got out, and then I got out into contracting. I made great money. I was an employee. You could call it an independent contractor. Did that for a while. It was year after year project, or you could stay for multiple years. It was your choice. It was kind of like a buffet of options for terms. So nevertheless, I did that and I enjoyed it. I made great money. I said, hey, man, I make a lot of money. So what? I don't need to do anything else. I make a great salary, right? I had to trade in my labor in order to get paid. But I had a little problem. When I didn't work, right, and I was sitting by the pool, or when I didn't work, I was sitting by the villa. I was like, man, that money's going down real quick.
Yeah.
So I got to go back to work. So I had to get up and go right back to work, even though I might have not necessarily wanted to. So I said, I got to go find ways in order not to do that.
Right.
So I said to myself, well, okay, I mean, entrepreneur, be my own boss. I kind of like that. I think I got a skill. Of course, I'm a leader from the military. So I was like, let me give that a try. And I remember I was going to get a promotion. I was in Paraguay at this time, and it was going to be great money, great benefits. But I just quit. And I quit, and then I bought all this gear, like almost $30,000 worth of camera gear, and I wanted to be a director. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to Brazil, Salvador, Brazil, to film Afro-Brazilians and do, chase my dreams, businesses, because I always wanted to do empowering media, not
Okay.
media that we see so much where it doesn't empower us. I know it means something to us sentimental, and it reflects our reality and things we go through, but
Right.
there's so many things that we can be empowered with, right? So I was like,
I'm
I'm
on
going to
that
do
page with you.
empowerment.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to do empowerment media. Quit, left, went all the way to Kenya. I had a friend there. He was an engineer. So he was like, let's do it. We made the company. It was called Africanity Productions. So
Okay.
I learned all online. I worked 12 hours at my job. When I got off, people used to see me in the hotel or the apartment with this big old jiggy thing, and they
Uh-huh.
saw my equipment. So they said, man, this guy, he's the real deal. They didn't see none of my content. They didn't see, none of my productions, but they just thought I was real deal because of my equipment. So
Right.
they, of course, people were like, hey, I want you to do a video for me because I run a gym class. I want you to do the video content for this apartment complex. So the first time I did it, it took me I had a bad computer. It took over like, 30 hours to process and render. And then I gave it to the person. And I remember I recorded a soccer video too. And that was the same thing. And they gave me $100. And I was like, I
Yeah.
did this,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I didn't have to fill out no application and then,
Right.
do what
W,
somebody told
yeah,
me.
yes,
It
exactly.
was just me.
I-9.
It was just exactly. It was just
Yeah.
me. So I was like, wow, that's an amazing feeling. I never felt that before. And then I
Right.
wanted more. So at that point, that's when I said I quit. Went to Kenya. We tried the business, but kind of Africa sometimes, it needs to be built. He's an
Yes.
engineer. So his
Yes.
mom was like, boy, you're not leaving to be no film director. She was like,
Right.
you need to do engineering.
Right.
So
Yes.
he
They
didn't
want you
get
to
to
have
do
that
it.
degree.
And he was already doing engineer, so she thought it was vital for the country. So she was like, filming's nice and everything, but we need engineers.
Okay.
So he didn't get to leave, and then I was like holding the bag by myself. So at that point, I was like, man, let me go back to work. So I went back to
Uh-huh.
work, and during that time, I would say even the last, 2 years, I've always saved 50% of my income. I'm always was a saver, even though I might have been ignorant a lot of times when I was young.
Uh-huh.
Nevertheless, I saved my money, and then I said, what can I do now? And after all my trials and tribulations of trying a business here, whether it was in Paraguay, whether it was in Brazil, I tried to open a couple of businesses in Brazil, in America with real estate, Brazil with restaurants and a lounge and an event space, in Kenya as a film production, also in Kenya with what was it, a aloe processing plant. I mean, I
Hmm.
did try to do many things, and some hit, a lot of miss, right? A lot,
I'm with you on that. Yes.
a lot. I mean, a lot of times I was like, man, but you pick yourself up and you keep going, and then you get sharper and sharper and sharper. You're able to judge better and determine better. So in the long run, I started investing in the last 2 years, whether it be in real estate, whether it be in the stock market, whether it be in private entities. I went across Kenya. I met an amazing young lady, a queen, who was trying to get out of a factory and build her own factory in Kenya.
Okay.
And, I funded the business and it's doing great. So then I was like, wait, this is great. And they took
Hmm.
my drive and my perspective, and it inspired a lot of entrepreneurs. So I said, you know what, my role is best served as inspiring entrepreneurs, inspiring investors, inspiring people to see that before they saw no opportunity, whether it be in America or whether it be in Africa. and there's
Right.
nothing but opportunity. So I've saw that in many countries that I lived in. I've seen China when it was dirt poor into what it is today, skyscrapers and rail light submarine. Nobody even uses paper around there. So
Yeah.
it's so technologically advanced from where it used to be. And I saw
Right.
the mentality that the people had, and they said there's nothing but opportunity. We have 1.4 billion people. We just need to trade with each other and we're rich. I give you a
Yes.
dollar, you give me a dollar. That's $2.8 billion dollars,
Right.
just like that. So we don't need anybody else. All we need is ourselves, because we have a large population. So I just got into that, and then it just took off after that.
So I want to expand on, like, it's going to be a two-part question because
Hmm.
I know, like, with my subscribers, I go into kind of my foreign investment journey on the continent of Africa, and that's another thing that kind of crossed my mind when I came across you, was that you invest in Tanzania, because that's where my business is Tanzania, and that's where my family is from, and that my other business is in the Kingdom of Eswatini, but I always try to tell people, because oftentimes, especially once your businesses become successful, it looks so easy, right? So I always want to give people a bird's eye view. Like for me, for example, it was like 2-3 years of just research alone, and my husband is from the country. Okay, we had like what I call a leg up, or we had much more connections than someone else would, and it still took us a few years to like do the research, even with all of that advantages of him being from there, to get the business, up and going. Like you were saying, there were a lot of like 2 steps back to take 1 step forward, just because of the way things go in Africa. So, I always try to let people know, like, this is definitely a process and a journey. And I know you had mentioned, like, there were some failures before there were some successes. And I wanted before, because people are starting to hop on now, so I'm seeing some people join, and we'll just talk until somebody has a question, but let's talk specifically about like your journey, and maybe some of the failures before there were successes, and people understanding that you know just because you put a lot of time and money into an idea does not mean it's going to work, and that you have to kind of fight through that, because it can be very defeating. When you're putting all this time and money into something and then it doesn't work. Especially when you really believe that you have like the next big thing, right? But that also comes down to market research. And I have a lot of subscribers because my business is in hospitality and tourism. So we assist a lot of people that are moving to the continent. And I get asked a lot about, well, do you think this business will work once I get there? And my answer is always like, have you done the market research? I can't tell you. I mean, of course, some things I can say, I don't know if that's really going to work, but it comes really down to, have you researched the location where you're going to be and the buying power of the people that are going to be purchasing from you? Like, can they even do it? So what would be your thoughts on just if someone has a good idea and whether or not it'll be successful?
Yeah, okay. Well, I definitely disclosed that I don't know everything.
Right.
And so, with that being said, I can't determine. It's usually the people who determine. I know people say the market, the market. It's just people. It's just
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It's people who trade products and service and do the bartering. So mostly solve problems for people, keep close and play close to that, address people's wants and desires and not only their needs too. And those are where you could find yourself a business. I mean, some people who have massive amounts of money just create the desire via
Yes.
marketing.
Right.
you know,
Yes.
so next thing you
Yes.
know, people are Apple dancing out of and just lining up since 3 o'clock last night to buy it. And
Right.
that's because they have great marketing. They make people feel like a family. They mostly lean on psychology and sociology with that. But
Mm-hmm.
nevertheless, if you're a small time investor, you're like, yeah, I can't psychologically get a whole nation aboard. Then once again, you look to people's desires, and like you said, of course, you utilize the data and information that you have. And I know it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of different when you go to the continent versus America, because,
Yes.
case in point, if I'm in real estate, when I wanted to do real estate investing in America, I mean, you got Zillow, you got the MLS, you got you got so many applications and databases to utilize just to crunch numbers. You could basically look at the street, in a 3D view and see what neighborhood you're buying into back when it was 1999 or,
Right.
2000, 2005. So there's massive amounts of information. But when you go to the continent, it's slightly different because, when I went out there and I wanted to open up a company that did basically affordable housing, just we call them steel advanced housings, but you
Yes.
call them like container houses.
Yes.
And
I know. Yeah.
nevertheless, yeah, so when we wanted to do that, I mean, the data that we were trying to acquire in order to just do our market research was a little bit more difficult, but not impossible. It wasn't mission impossible because other people are building databases and information in Africa so that they can bring their conglomerates, corporations there.
Hmm.
So once again, I think one of and I think the question was about my failures, right? Or
Well, yeah. So before we hop to that, there's a couple of questions that just popped up. So Ebony
okay,
Davis wants to know, for foreign investors, how does one determine if a foreign business is a stable one to invest in? And she's probably referring specifically to, because a lot of my subscribers are either interested in moving to the continent, specifically
hmm
Tanzania, or they're
hmm
looking to invest or they want to start businesses there. So this comes up
hmm
a lot. So they want to know, like, she's saying, how does one determine if a foreign business is a stable one to invest in? And that question I
okay,
get asked a lot.
okay. So case in point, when I invested in Tanzania, invested in Tanzania via a Kenyan business, which was called Has Consult. It was a developer, and they're not so much a developer, but they're more so resale developers projects or main contractors or whatever you want to call them. They have many different titles. So nevertheless, I I told people, hey, look, I'm going to invest in basically a resort or apartment complex or even a villa. Oh, be careful, be very careful. And of course, everybody had their story. There's this one apartment complex that was built out of here, and people never got their money back. So, of course,
Well,
they're like, oh,
that's the thing about Africa is that people, are very scared about, they hear those stories, right? You invest and your money disappears.
yeah, but that was one out of the 50 that were successful, right?
Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
most people don't talk about that, right? It's like, what
Right.
about that building that just got done? What about that building that just got done? What about that building? That's just one neighborhood, right? So it's just about, of course, doing research on the actual developer, doing research. Like case in point, when I was in Kenya, I was looking at development projects in Kenya, and then there was one, of course, in Tanzania, two in Tanzania, Fuma Town, and another one called the Soul. And nevertheless, when I was in Kenya looking at projects, all I did was, of course, you know, on my website, I show people how to do this. But of course, I went to specifically to that country via e-citizen. I checked out the company. I got the report back on the company, seeing if they were, of course, good standing. They were registered inside the country. They had all their credentials, right? And if they
Mm-hmm.
go through that length to do that, then most of the time they're going to be more than likely legitimate, right?
Right.
Then you solidify that they're legitimate. Now you're going to solidify that they have good products or services. So how do you do that, right? You go and see what they have done, not what they say. So I
Right.
actually went to different development projects, and there would be different construction teams. So I would say, okay, what's this? Who's the main contractor? Who's the subcontractor? Who's the
Mm-hmm.
developer? And then I would say, oh, they'll say, oh, it's this person, this person. I say, okay, then point to the properties they already completed in Kenya. Then they'll say,
Mm-hmm.
you got one over here, one over here. I'll go all the way to that property, drive over there, and then check the finishing, check the furnishing, check the foundation, check the site, check the actual people coming in and out, see if it has a pulse, see if
Right.
it was actually completed right, right? And of course, I'm not saying this is bad, but of course I would go in and be like, oh, I'm trying to rent. I'm just here to
Right.
rent one of the apartments, right? So they'll
Right.
take me in, they'll show me the apartment, they'll show me everything. And I really wasn't a renter. But if I came and said I was invested, they'd be like, man, get out of here.
Right.
I just want to check this property. They're like, don't waste my time. So nevertheless, I went in there and I did the due diligence. So that is the primary part. And I'm going to just highlight this real quick. Due diligence is anywhere. Like
Yes.
I bought like 96 acres down in Georgia, and I was calling up the county, and I called up the building inspector, and then I called up somebody else in particular, the tax office, and then I called up another one, like the ordinance office. And the guy was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you called me." He's like,
Right.
"Man, most people just get a land and do whatever they want on it." And he's like, "But
Hmm.
you went through the due diligence." And that was numerous times when I just called the police department for my, real estate property that I was buying. They were like, "Whoa, I
Right.
can't believe you're calling." And it's so many people out here investing. There's so many people out here doing businesses, but not doing their due diligence. So that's the most important part, is doing the research, verifying from people. Even the property that I was invested in, I talked to the criminal specialist so she could just tell me about the community, tell me what
Right.
there's things that they would have to look out for. And she was like, "I can't believe you're a landlord calling me." She's like, "Most people who call me are people who want to live in it with families.
Right.
Landlords are not calling. They just care about the rent." So
Right.
she was like, "It's surprising, but it's just due diligence. So I want to know what's going on in the neighborhood. I want to know what type of property I'm dealing with, type of community I'm dealing with. So therefore I can build my property to protect my asset, which is my renters." So I just
Right.
have a different approach when it comes down to investment. It's the end product, it's people. And once you actually give the people a good service or product, I'm telling you, they'll not even think about buying a house. They'll think about staying longer. They'll think about paying you more. They go out of their way to make sure you're taken care of.
So yeah, so you brought up a good point. That's something I always talk about is, sometimes people are they're the patience. They want their businesses to get started. They're ready to go ahead and invest, but you really have to take a lot of time to do your research. That just comes down to, like you're saying, research is due diligence, right? And especially in a foreign country. One thing I always say is, like, I don't think you should be putting money down on anything until you have physically been there to check it out. It's very difficult to invest in something if you have not physically checked it out yourself. So that comes down to research. So that, yeah, that is key. Thank you for that. So let's see.
I
Somebody's
never been to
watching.
Tanzania though.
Huh? You never been
I said
there?
I bought the property. I've never been there, but I'll go.
Yeah, we will get you there because when next time I'm there, I'll let you know. So we're gonna have to get you out there to host you.
There we go.
So someone's tuned in from Cape Town, South Africa. Hey, how's it going? So let me see. I thought there was another question up here.
Shout
Uh,
out to South Africa,
South
ESF,
Africa in the
ANC.
house.
What's going on?
Oh yeah, because somebody was saying, her question was, she was asking that because she was saying you don't just want to invest in the stock market, because a lot of people are asking about investing in the stock market there as well.
Hmm.
Um,
So hers was mainly about the stock market.
well, she was saying she doesn't want to invest in stock market. So how do
Okay,
you know? How
gotcha.
can you find other things
Okay,
properly
gotcha.
to
Yeah,
invest in? Which,
and I'll say this also, that if you go to my channel, shameless plug, but
Mhm.
I'm just trying to
No,
plug you to
please.
the resources. I basically went through Kenya as one example where they have a platform that literally shows you the projects that the nation wants to build out, whether they be just a private industry, whether they be a partnership with the public and the private, meaning the government and just a private entity, and then
Hmm.
also many different other lease and already created, need to be built out, whatever it may be. And I just show you on the channel how to look at many different projects that literally, when I went to Kenya, I sat down with the governor for Baringo because I was able to use this platform, me, just a tourist. I'm not Bill Gates or anything, right?
Right.
So, so that's why you need to go to Africa. But
Right.
nevertheless, nevertheless, I don't know if you can get in the governor where you're from back in America, but
Right.
nevertheless,
No.
it was, yeah, exactly. So I contacted the office. They sent me, of course, the brief. They sent me the brochures. They sent me what their idea was, all the information, almost the due diligence. They call it a feasibility study. And then I read the feasibility study. And when he was in Nairobi, I met up with him and we talked about it specifically, what the deal was, what situations we were dealing with. And they were very hospitable. I mean,
Right.
even when I said I want to go check it out, he's like, "No problem, brother." He was like, I get the guy right now. We can go right now. He was like, "You want to go now? You want to go in a week? I'm going to make sure you're taken care of." And then he brought out the Ministry of Department for Agriculture. He took me around, showed me the site. They put me up in a government hotel. I just paid a small price versus paying for a regular one. So they treat investors entirely different because they're going to create jobs. They're going to stimulate the
Correct.
economy. It's very
Yes.
important. So I just want to say this plug so I can get people to understand how serious it is. And I don't use the term, I'm not against entrepreneurs because we need entrepreneurs too, but
Right.
investors too. And I say that because the term for investor is a person who allocates capital with the exception of a future financial return or gain. And it doesn't even have to be financial. It could be social. It could be all different types of gains. It could just be a power gain, like you grab land, you grab buildings. And I say investor because I used to take the approach where I said, hey, politicians or whoever it may be do X, Y, and Z. But what I
Right.
learned is that when I sat in that office and many other offices and me being a diplomat for 4 years, when you sat across the table as an investor, the conversation entirely changed because it
That's
was
so
a
true.
back and forth. I didn't
Yeah.
just only have a vote because investors still have votes too, right? They're still regular
Right.
people, right? But
Right.
nevertheless, I, I had something that he couldn't bring to fruition.
Right.
The politician cannot build a factory. He does
Correct.
nothing about factory. He has no vendors, no suppliers. The only thing he does is bargain the assets of the state and the allocated funds from the people and whatever he may have. And then, of course, slash litigation and then slash credit or, taxes to incentivize, maybe an individual investor, an NGO, whatever it may be. So when
Right.
I sat across the desk, it was a vastly different conversation if I sat across that desk and said, you need to give me jobs. He
Mhm.
wouldn't have been like, I can't facilitate that.
Right.
But I was able to get a small group, and it wasn't only me. I was able to get a small group of brothers to invest in my idea, invest in what I wanted to do. And all these other people invested small amounts of money every month. And so when I went there as a group, or entity, and said, hey, I got people behind me. Here are the blueprints.
Right.
Here is the stats. Here's the market research. What I need you to do, and which would be great so we can help the people, is to slash the red tape, help out on our immigration for the people who are going to be on the ground,
Hmm.
and then, of course, support with some money that the actual city or the district can raise. And he said, no problem. I'll
Okay.
make it happen. So it was just an entirely different conversation. It was, I gave him this and he gave me that. And with
But
that being
you're
said, the
doing
people
what
got
I
everything.
what we speak to is you're coming to them with solutions, not
Yeah.
problems. So
No, exactly.
it changes the narrative, a
Yes,
lot.
it does.
So for people that we're getting some more people to hop on, I want people to truly understand your expertise and knowledge and how powerful this is that they're able to have access to someone like you and this platform right now. So if you could give them just, we're going to go back to the beginning, give them a little introduction again of who you are, what you do, plug your channel, your book, plug all that right now, please. I'm
Yeah,
all about supporting other people. So
thank you.
please let them know about that, any projects you got going on, and like your bio. I'm going to just go into his title that's underneath his name. That is his channel, is Black Ambassadors. So please check him out. He has a lot of knowledge on there. He was gracious enough to come on here so I can share with my subscribers all of his tips and knowledge. This is episode 1 of, I hope, many episodes to come. And I actually hope you come back for another episode,
Of course.
because I'm sure we can't cover everything in one episode. But I know in your bio and your channel, like one thing that I'm sure gets people's attention is you said you became a millionaire by 33. You've been to over 70 countries. You're an investor, a foreign investor as well. So if you could just go ahead and take this time to let people know about the greatness that you are.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I want to tell everybody my name is Black Ambassador, or that's the channel name. That's where we go, Black Ambassadors. And of course, we're doing rebranding right now. So if it changed, don't be surprised. But
Right.
nevertheless, what I focus on is investment, and not only just in the financial sense, but also in a spiritual and motivational sense. I want to invest in people's mentality. I want to change their actual outlook and their views because throughout my experience, which I've been a traveler, I'm a veteran, I was a diplomat, I'm an investor. I've been all over the world, over 60 countries. As you said, I've been able to make $1 million. I still obtain $1 million, and I still have assets that generate passive income that I utilize to actually pay off a lot of that stuff that I got going on, whether that's good debt, whether that's the property I got that's generating streams of revenue. So, because I don't want to make it seem like I take that and then I go splurge and I live my
Right.
life. No, I take that money and put it back into my investment. I reinvest
Right.
it. So,
Mm-hmm.
nevertheless, I say that and oh, is it braggadocious? No, I'm saying it so I want you guys to know that you could be it too. Single mom, raised in a regular place. My family has debt, right? And
Right.
I said, how am I going to get myself and my family out of debt? And how did I get my family and myself out of debt? By changing my life, changing my mentality, changing what I was doing, holding myself accountable for everything that I was doing. Of course, I understand the obstacles. Of course, I understand the hindrances. Of course, it is the battlefield for life. It is a conflict, and you must gain territory and be the victor. There's winners and then there's losers. And we want everybody that follow us and supports us to be winners. Everybody can be a winner. So as I
Yeah.
said on the earlier, it said the average investor. I don't want to make it seem like it's some, oh, I could never be an investor. That's something for the big wigs. No,
Right.
everybody can be. Because if you never heard of angel investors, it's always family and friends that actually fund small startup businesses like Airbnb today. So that is the primary point that we need to actually allow people to know, and of course show them through action and receipts.
Okay. So, and to that, I have another question for you. Ebony Davis, outside of her being fond of you, she says she wants to make you her husband. she she also wants to know, is there any difference in investing with private versus public sector in Africa?
And investing with private
Yeah,
and one more.
versus public.
Well, okay, yeah. So
Because Africa functions a little different when it comes
no,
to
no, of
that.
course.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was just thinking about how to say, but yes, because like I said, if you go to the channel, I'm going to take you through one example was Kenya,
Okay.
where of course you go to their platform, and once again, some were private, just like, hey, you take care of it, and some were partnerships, joint ventures with the public entities, and of
Okay.
course the pros and cons is it depends on the term of deals of what the actual public says that they're going to do. What's their bargain? They might leverage something that's a national asset, like a mine or something like that, right? So that's what
Right.
they're bringing to the table. You ain't got to go out and buy one. Now, what's the deal as far as the private entity? You need to process, you need to mine it, you need to get it out and then process it. And then there's some arrangement between the terms of how much they're able to tax or how much of the portions do they get of the venture, right?
Right.
So it just depends on the particular deal. And of course, I'm not going to say that one's better than the other. It just depends on the deal because I can't just say that at face value. There's a lot of factors that equate whether the deal is going to be good or not, and you'll have to dig in order to figure that out. But the primary thing is try all options. Why not, right?
Right.
So that's the good. That's the beauty about it, right? You can try this, and if it doesn't work, then it's just called scientific experiment, right?
Right.
Trial and error. You fail, you have the evidence that it didn't work. Analyze it. Was it a slight mistake, or was I totally off the marker? And then you figure that out, and then you arrive at a conclusion. Yes, I was totally off the marker. Let me go this way, and then that's
Right.
how that works.
Okay. So then she had a follow-up question with, if you have in the U.S., if you have a business in the U.S., do you have any tips on how to move it to Africa or expand it there? So I mean, I'll say before you answer the short, one thing that's going to determine that is going to be the laws of the country in Africa that you're sending it to. Because now you're talking about being a foreign investor, or moving your U.S. dollars to the African country. So there, you have to really make sure you do your research and your due diligence about the tax situation and that type of thing. But then I'll let you go ahead and answer about, she's saying, it sounds like if you already have a business going in America, and I'm sure it depends on what kind of business, can you move, how would you go about moving that to Africa?
Okay. One, depends on the country.
Right.
Two, let me give you an example. Kenya. Prior to that, once again, I'm not an attorney. Go seek legal advice. But nevertheless,
Yes.
when I and this is a good part. There are companies in Kenya that, of course, facilitate services that allow you to start your own company in Kenya. So
Right.
whether that be you want to bring a foreign company, meaning you want to make your company in America international, right? So you want to bring it to Kenya, right? Then you could be a foreign company, right? Operating in Kenya, and there's going to be requirements for that. But you don't have to do it that way. You could just be a company in Kenya, and then it's the same business that you run in America, right?
That's
Given the
true.
laws, right? So you'll be more of a native country, a national or a domestic company. and you
Mm-hmm.
could create that. And there's rules and regulations to that. And they always change. Before you had to have you had to have a Kenyan be in the administrative chain somewhere at the top doing a certain specific thing, right? They didn't have to have 100% ownership or 50 like that, but they needed to be a part of it. And of course, sometimes they change it. So when I was there, they did change it, and I didn't need that anymore. So I could just, as a foreigner, open my own business in Kenya just for me. I don't need anybody else in between, and I can own 100% of it. But every
Right.
country's not like that, you know? So
Right.
different countries have different rules because they're in different development stages or they're making different decisions. You know, they're
Right.
making different play calls. So with that being said, you really have to go seek, and you could call them company registrations, which they
Mm-hmm.
basically help you and assist you and answer all your questions. And then, of
Right.
course, for a fee, they can actually set that up so you can make sure you're A-OK in doing
Yes.
business in Africa, whether it's a foreign entity entering in Kenya and wanting to conduct business, or whether it's a national born company that you just do what you do in America, just do it in Kenya.
Right. And that's a really good point, because that's part of the services that my company does, is that when we have clients that we assist that we know want to start a business or continue a business on a continent, the first thing we do is put them in front of a foreign investment attorney, because you have to know the laws of that land to see what your options are, because the laws greatly dictate what your options are. Just
Mhm.
because, those countries function a lot different than what we might be accustomed to in the West. So you have to kind of understand how that's going to go. But yeah, you definitely have options. So let's go into, I want to hop back into, I have to pull it up, the questions I had sent you.
I
Um,
just want to say one
yes,
thing real quick.
yeah,
So in Kenya, and I'll speak about Kenya.
okay,
In Kenya, for an example, the company was a company registration company, and you could just company registration services. And what they do is they have lawyers that know the laws, and they have people who are going to facilitate the process. So once you get in contact with them, they're going to send you a sheet. They're going to ask you what you want to do, what kind of business you want to open. My friend just did one, O'Shea Du Jackson. He did one about the same type of company in Uganda, and they facilitate it. So they have the lawyer, they have the attorney who can tell you the laws and what is this and what you're not supposed to do, and then that facilitates it. And then plus, not just an attorney to tell you, like, yeah, we could do that. You know, you can't do that, and that's it. Have a nice day.
right,
No,
right,
let me do it now. You know, so it's
right,
like a one-stop shop where you could be like, I want to make the decision. If you tell an attorney that, he'd be like, okay, well, go do it, or go
right.
find somebody, because the attorney might not do that. So he might just provide legal advice. So
Right.
nevertheless, if you go to those places, they have the legal attorneys on deck, and then you can facilitate it with them.
Yeah, that's excellent information. So I hope everybody takes note of that, because that is extremely helpful when you're trying to maneuver in a foreign country. That can make a big difference. So
Big.
I know one thing I wanted to go over is two questions I sent you. One was, what are the pros and cons of investing in Africa, and what makes investment in Africa unique? So whichever one of those you want to tackle, because I have plenty to say about that.
Pros, and it's gonna sound, I'm gonna sound, but I'm just trying to keep it inspirational. The pros, and of course real, and tell you the truth. The
Right.
pros about investing in Africa is Africa's Africa. Africa has massive amounts of natural resources. Africa has a long way to go towards acquiring more services and products that not only feed the demands of the people, but feed the demands of the countries, feed the demands of possibly even the world if they want to do business with us. So, with that being said, there's a lot of room to grow. Once again, I'm from Columbia, Maryland, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I tried to open up a business that was in Pennsylvania. It was going to be a medical marijuana facility, but we were just going to grow, and then we were going to process, and then it wasn't a distribution center, right? So we don't sell. We just, like I said, grow and process.
Mhm.
And the process was crazy. Not only did I have to talk to people that was from the township, the Barrow, and the municipalities, I had to figure out who the building really was owned by, right? So
Right.
America is just sometimes in a disarray, just like any other place, right?
A lot
Uh,
of
the,
steps. There's a
the
lot of steps.
yeah, the
Yeah.
person who owned the building didn't even know he owned half of the building because the school didn't sign over the remainder of the rights of the other building, and he didn't know that there was a mine company that really had the land on lease with the school when they built the building in 1960. So he didn't even own the land underneath the building. And then you had to go into the litigation of that because, you know, if the oil and mining company decided to take the building back, they could because of
Right.
the way they charged rent, and they didn't charge a high premium but a low one. So because that they basically could acquire a whole 100,000 square foot building. So this
Hmm.
guy didn't even know that, you know,
Right.
and he was the owner of it, and he bought it for like $1,000 off of
Okay.
somebody else who was trying to get rid of it because he couldn't pay the taxes and he didn't know how to develop it. So with that being said, and they were still giving me hassle about doing it. I was like, there ain't no jobs here. What you mean? I'm doing everybody a favor
Right.
in the community. You know, we could all work with each other, and they just didn't want it, or they made me jump through a lot of hoops. So with that being said, there's things done already because a lot of other people are doing it. Solidified families who've been doing this type of industry for eons, right? When
Right.
you go to Africa, that's not necessarily always the case. There's a
Correct.
lot of industries that are not monopolized, and there's a lot of avenues to open and industries to get into, right? And that's the beauty about it. So now you ask me how much a factory costs in America compared to a factory costing in Africa, it's very different. And guess
Boom.
what?
Yeah.
The end result is a product. So it
Right.
don't matter if I do it in America or Africa, right? The end
Right.
result is a product. And then the end result over there in Africa is I can become a manufacturer and a producer of products, right?
Right.
Where in America, yes, I can produce things, but it's on a different scale. I don't
Right.
have a factory like Kanye used to say when he was trying to get into fashion. I don't
Yeah.
own no factories. You know, they charging me all this money and I can't get my product out. Yeah,
Right.
because he don't own no factories. But
Right.
now we can own factories. We can own things like that in Africa, and that's monumental. That's that's
Huge.
that's
Yeah. I always say
huge.
to me in America, and I have my degrees in entrepreneurship, it's kind of like in my blood. And to me, America, because some people ask me, why did you end up going to Africa versus, just here in the States? But I always look at it like the States are just so built up already. You know what I mean? Like everybody, there's been things established for generations. I'm so far behind the eight ball when it comes to these families that have had, their lineage of, goods and services or buildings or whatever may be the case. It's just very, very hard to break into. But in Africa, like my husband calls it, it's like the business wild, wild west, right? It's like you can go out there and it's so much
And,
that you can accomplish.
and one of the beautiful parts about it is, sometimes we might look at things like, let's say, roads in Africa, right?
Right,
I remember somebody said 38% of roads are in Africa, and 30% of those roads are in South Africa. So that talks about how much there's a lack of roads in Africa,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And same thing's not for America, right? But there's still the end result of American roads are still terrible, right? There's
right,
potholes, there's cracks in all of them, right?
right,
So think about this. You need new roads. How much is that going to cost you in America? Not just because it's expensive, right? But because
right,
there's already a road there. So you got to
right,
tear it out, you got to do all this repair, whatever you have to do, right? But in Africa, the canvas is blank. So there's a
right,
lot of things that you could, and like China was very able to develop very quickly because they came into a part where technology was more advanced, right? They were at a different a growth, a technological growth where
right,
technology was at a different level. So when they didn't have nothing, they said, all right, cool, we just put up skyscrapers now, we just put
right,
up these advanced buildings and advanced transportation systems. But back when America did it, it was old. Right? So
right,
when we built the roads, so in order to redo it, we got to rip them out. In order to have fiber optic cables in America, you got to rip out the old ones. You know how
right.
expensive that was? You know how powerful those companies are? Google
Yeah,
is a powerful company, and they can't even uproot those infrastructures that are already set by the internet providers before. And they're
right,
Google, right?
right,
But
right.
if you go to Africa, there's nothing there. So you can
Mhm.
just start doing it. And it's a blank canvas. So you can start to paint whatever in a time where your paintbrushes are technologically advanced and you can start building a Wakanda in a sense.
Right. So let's go to the flip side. What are
Mm-hmm.
the cons to in investing in Africa or doing business in
Mm-hmm.
Africa?
The con in advancing in Africa, or of course investing in Africa, is like I said, holistic, right? So the
Mhm.
con is necessarily the lesson. The con is the advancement of your mentality. So there might be things that people call a con, like, oh man, if I go to Africa, the bureaucracy is X, Y, and Z. Oh, if I go to Africa, X, you know, those are challenges that you just have to figure out. That's vastly different than any other place. And I'm pretty sure you have to deal with those in America also. So
Mhm.
the cons in my experience, right, was me having to go to point A to point B to do a lot of due diligence, right? That
Right.
somebody would be like, in America, I'm just online and da 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 da. You know, I can get all the data, click, click, bang, bang, right? But for Africa, I had to go to point A to point B to point A to point B to point A to point B. But for me, I built more communication. I built more connections. I learned more about the land. I
Yeah.
learned more about where I was actually at. I learned more about putting ads and being on the ground about what sometimes I didn't see in Google when I was doing a street view in America for real estate. So
Right.
it was vastly different. I didn't like, in America, I did it because I didn't do it because inconvenience. Like,
Right.
it wastes my time. I do the calculations. I'm like, I could just look. But when I was in Africa, I didn't have a choice. So when I went, I learned more by actually being on the ground. So things that we might necessarily see as a con is actually could be a pro. It all
Mhm.
depends on your mentality. The
Right.
cons and the pros are about progress, right? So you,
Right.
you got to take those quote unquote things we would call cons and investing in Africa and turn them into pros.
Right. That's very true. So like
And it's just
I
more
mean,
challenging. It's more fun.
yeah, that's what I say. I always say you just have to really change your mentality and change your expectations when you're going to the continent.
And I was
You
going to
know,
say,
yes.
if we, excuse me, I was just going to say, think about this. If there's cons to being a basketball player, there's cons to being a celebrity, right? But
Right.
people still gonna go out there and try to
You
be
try to
get
be
that
what?
celebrity status, right?
Yeah.
So because the pros are just the pros, right? And the cons, it depends on how you take them. Like some celebrities used to be super crazy about like paparazzi, right? And then
Right.
some, like Kanye later on, he was like, man, actually they make me look cool. He just
Uh-huh.
changed his mentality around his old cons, right?
Right.
So once again, that's the same thing for us. If we want to, know the pros and cons about that, but we still go for it, then
Right.
the pros over here investing in Africa is something that you can just flip your psychology around and look at it a different way. And you'll say, that ain't no con. Let's go.
Right. That's great. Okay. So now let me go back to my other question. Um, what resources, and you kind of spoke on this a little bit before about resources, for people who are wanting to get into a certain field or get access to certain people. And you were saying that outside of just Facebook, Instagram, like the main social media, there's other social medias out there that you can use. So that's something that, people want to go back and listen to that portion of this. That will help because you listed some of that before. And then what organizations would you recommend who support small businesses or business development? Like, do you have any organizations that you personally prefer or that you like that you think are good? Like, I know you're one of them. You support people who want to be investors, right? So you can speak for yourself and maybe a couple other that you might know about.
hmm So yeah, me.
Yeah.
Because what I want to do is there's people I do know, right? But
Mhm.
I'm cautious about that because I want for people to have proof of concept. I want people to have that thing I said look at when I was looking at property, right? Other projects that are completed. I do have some in my head, and I would say they're in pending status, right?
Okay.
So, and once they accomplish said couple of goals or whatever the rule of measurement is that I do have, then I could say, hey, everybody, I feel comfortable with letting you guys know about X, Y, and Z. And then
Okay.
you guys can go out and connect with them. As far as when I speak about me, I
Yes.
know what I have done. I know, so I can, of course, verify that. And I can
Uh-huh.
show the verification. So, yeah, most of the time, my big thing about it is, of course, contact me. I have an email address. It's on my channel, right? You can send me
Let me
whatever. I'm
put
not
that
going to
down here for people to contact you. What is your contact?
It's on the black BLK ambassador at gmail.com. But if
Okay.
you go to my channel, Black Ambassadors, and you go to the about, then it's going to be right there. and then you
Okay.
could get with me,
All
right?
right.
And so once again, if you go to the channel and then you go to the about section provides the email address, and then just shoot me it, right? And
Perfect.
then I'll look over it and we'll build. Even if you're not looking at that point where you're like, well, I don't really want no financial system or mentorship or a partnership, whatever. This is no consultation. I'm not charging anybody for this. It's
Mhm.
just I always love motivating an individual entrepreneur who's going to go out of his way to be inspired. I don't care what stage you're at. I'm not judgmental. I'm not like,
Right.
oh, he just called me. He just wanted to chop it up. That's cool. That's a part of it. Everything is a stone. Everybody's at a different part of their journey, right? So
Right.
therefore, I tailor to all parties and all avenues or all aspects of the spectrum. There's going to be people over here. There's going to be people over here, but they're all vital. They're all important. They all play a role. So I just want to facilitate all of them along
So
the
you
way.
guys are hearing it here first. If you are wanting to start a business, if you have a business, if you are looking for someone who is in a field where they invest in their time, their money, their energy into other entrepreneurs, this is your guy. He knows what he's doing. He's very experienced. He's done it. He's willing to, take time to help reach back and help others. Like I always say, a lot of times it's not that we need a handout, we need a hand up. So he's willing to do that. So yeah, contact him. Make sure you support him on his YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel, and his information is on there so that you have access now to another person who is also a business owner and a successful business investor. I'll change that. So you've heard that here first. So make sure you check that out. So someone said they're gonna definitely reach out to you. Thank you for your knowledge of wisdom.
And
Um,
can I add one more
yeah,
thing before we
absolutely.
move
Yeah,
on?
go
I want
ahead.
to let people know too that as much as I'm an investor in, let's say, business, I'm an investor in, I'm not biased or anything, but I am a male. So I'm an investor in especially black men, and I invest in them to give them life, breathe life back into them, breathe kingship back into them, and energy and a brotherhood that we have maybe, let's say, has faded slightly. A brotherhood that inspires each other, that focuses on driving each other, focuses on empowering each other. It's one of the most things that I love to do. And I have many men that always, sometimes they say they look up to me or thanks
Mhm.
for things that I have done for them, because nevertheless, they are my brothers and I am my brother keeper. And once we
Correct.
bring back a good brotherhood, we can protect our communities, we can build a strong nation, because in essence, the only problem that lies is the problem of power. And once we go out to fight for territory and claim our land, and I don't mean always in a sense of physical violence, talking about in every aspect, for your information, for your right to education, your own worldviews, your own perspective, your own destiny, we can gain massive amounts of territory. So I invest a lot in the spirit and the energy of my people and people to inspire them to be greater than what they are and to change their mentality from where it is and give them whatever they need. There's been
Right.
failures in my life and there's been success in my life, but I really want to highlight on many people that I've spoken to. There's a girl in Salvador. She has her own cheese factory now. And before she was in burgers and she was doing vegan this and it wasn't working out.
Right.
Because I was like, Brazilians don't even eat burgers like that,
Right.
right? And she's like, but I love, and she was really into the ocean and all this stuff. And then I was just like, well, look, how about that cheese? Brazilian loves cheese. And then she was like, hmm. And then she took a step back. And then, of course, she started doing it. She's making good sales. And then it was just me saying, hey, what are you doing now? Oh, well, I'm doing this and doing. Hey, no, no, focus on the cheese.
Right.
Focus on the
Right.
cheese. And then it's like, what's this? How much does it cost to do this? How much does it cost to do this? No, you need to know it. You need to know it. Get
Right.
more involved and deep with your cheese. See, we have a potential to be really deep when it comes to spiritual. We've become really deep when it comes down to entertainment or sports. We could
Uh-huh.
become really deep when it comes to other things. And I'm
Right.
not saying that's bad. I'm not.
No,
But what
you're
I'm
right.
saying is it's time to get deep about our products and our services. It's time to get deep about investing. Also, we can do all of that stuff. So,
Right.
nevertheless, she readdressed what she was doing and redirected her energy And now she's even more successful to the point where sometimes it was like, I think she just got accepted in another store for her cheese to be placed out. It sold within a week, right? And he told the guy who owned the supermarket, he told somebody else about it. And he was like, I mean, I
Right.
told my friend about you. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I said, why didn't you go to the new guy yet? She's like,
Right.
what you mean? He told him. I said, no, 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 no. You need to go there and put cheese and your brand and your product and your face and your love and your service right in his face. Because now he's looking at you like, man, I got so much to do as a grocery store owner. I was going to get to her, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm busy, right? But she just took that out. She took the ball and put it in her court and took charge. And now
Right.
she's here. And I see that as I want you in my shelf, because some of my suppliers, I got to call them day in and day out to get my product to come to the store. But
Right.
you just came to me and you stood out of the pack just by bringing me some cheese. So
And that
once she did that, the guy signed her that moment.
and that's kind of that's what this channel's about. That's what people need, is that the fact that sometimes you just need that extra support, that extra set of eyes, the extra set of ears, someone with a little bit more experience that can help your dream come through to not only fruition but also propel it forward a little bit, because
Mhm.
a lot of people, they have the passion, they have the drive, but they don't necessarily know how to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's what this channel is about, is giving everyone out there access to people like you, people like me, people that are already doing it, who've already had some failures that can help you steer clear of certain rocks and say, you know what, you don't want to take that path, you might want to go here. Because I'm like you, I feel like I am my brother's keeper, and if I do well, then there's no reason other people can't do well as well. I always feel like, there's enough room at the top for everybody. We all have,
Yeah.
there's plenty of room. So, that's why I like to reach out, have people come on to help with that and to explain your role and how you can help other people get there as well. I use my platform. That's kind of my role and how I'm doing it. And then, you have yours as well. So that's why I tell people, make sure you go check out Black Ambassador. Make sure you check out all the other, besides what the gems he's dropping here. He has gems already on his channel as well that you can check out, that you can look. The beauty I love about, the one thing I really, really love about YouTube, and when I started marketing my business, you had to kind of pick what platform you're going to use, what social media platform you're going to kind of dominate. So that's one thing. That's kind of my little tip advice. I decided on YouTube, even though I just created my channel like 6 months ago. I didn't know anything about it because it reaches everyone around the world. So if you really want to
Mhm.
empower people and you really want to have a platform to speak to where anyone can join, I think YouTube is a really good one. So that's why I was telling people, make sure that I see someone already said they subscribe to your channel. So good, thank you. So make sure you check them out, spread the love, spread the word. Like I said, I want to have you back for more episodes because you have been my first episode. So I thank you so much for that.
Of course. Thank you for
um,
having me.
and I know, so we've been on about an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're busy, but what are some final thoughts or tips or anything that you want to leave with our subscribers about investment? And, so just maybe some advice or things that you learned to help other people out there.
Okay. I want to really make it known that growing up, they told me, or let's say the school system told me I had ADHD, yeah, and I had problems, learning disabilities, etc., etc. Police camps. I mean, I ran for the police for fun. Like it was just something to do,
Uh,
yeah. Uh, Stealing out of my mind, just all types of craziness when I was young. And when I actually,
like a problem child, basically, right?
yeah, I had some issues. I had some conflicts. So, I went straight from middle school to the police camp, and then I would always run from the police at police camp, right? And I had a friend that I met around high school, and just with him, he just didn't do none of that. So I had to come to him correct if I wanted to hang out,
Mhm.
right? Like I couldn't bring that just because who he was, how he was raised. Not even only that, just he just didn't do that. Let me just give him that, right? So with that being said, I stopped doing what I was doing, right? And it was more so playing basketball before school. It sounds real corny, playing Pokemon cards, video games, right? And and then, like I said, going into the military, I still had a lot of lack of identity. Didn't know where I could, it was a lot of stuff, right?
Right.
And so I used to use money to show people that I had value. Gucci
Ah,
shades, Versace. I was in the military
okay.
wearing Gucci. All right.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, $700 shades, we didn't even
Uh-huh.
get paid that much. And and at that point, man, I used to do a lot of ignorant stuff. And I say that, and I didn't know the value of money. I used to take money and say, what can I buy? Instead of
Right.
what can I build, right? And I say that because I want to say that because somebody can listen to the show and listen to what I said and listen to all the things and the way I speak and say, oh man, he must have had it good, or oh man, he must have learned this from a young age, or man, he could have. No, 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 no. It is far from that. So I want to say that to, like I said, make people understand that they can be average and they can be investors and they could be great. They could be from a background that quote unquote doesn't run in the line of most people who would do stuff like that, right? Especially now and today with the age of information and being on the internet, right? There's so much information there. The internet is there to tell you stories and tell you information that before, I think you had to go to the library.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, too, how many great real estate books are in the library? Right? Go there now. And it's not going to tell you so much, right? And it's not going to be so interactive. And it's not going to be so descriptive. And it's not going to be so connected. Like, there's not going to be so much connectivity, right? Because you're just in the library. You got to get the
Right.
card, check it out. I think you get one book some places, right?
Yeah.
So it's just very slow, right? And other people just had circles, right? They were part of a circle. Their family was in real estate. They were developers all their life.
Right.
So it was family knowledge, right? Or group
Right.
knowledge or class knowledge, right? And now we could break those barriers, right? We can gain that access to that information because there's people out here all on YouTube talking about it, showing it, doing it, podcasting it, visualizing it, walking you through it, tutorials, DIY. Like it's just YouTube is a how-to platform. And I
Right.
want to make sure that people start using it more so 50-50. I'm okay with that, but I would say go 100 to
Right.
how to do many things instead of who's doing what, why they're doing it, and drama and sports and entertainment. That's nice. That's okay. But the primary part that we need to focus on is developing in ourselves, for ourselves, our families, and our communities. And once we do that, we can change many things before Bernie Sanders or a Trump ever opens up their mouth. So I
Right.
think it's vastly important for us to focus on things like that. And I just want to iterate that, like I said, I come from that type of line of background. I was riding in the hills of Barcelona in Spain in a Ferrari, spending crazy, stupid money that I saved up hard to do what, like to get people to be like, oh, you look cool.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I said, wow, I can take this dollar and turn this dollar into $20. Turn this dollar and this dollar can generate $20. It can generate $50. So once I saw that, then I was like, well, that's the game right there. And a quote from Mark Cuban, he said, business, and I would say business slash investing, is the ultimate sport.
Okay.
That's where the sports is. That's where the challenge is. I met many brothers and sisters who talk about basketball, and they'd be like, man, if he came in, then his knee, and if he came back when he was in high school, da da da, his arm reach and da da. They're almost, they're technicians, they're strategists when they think about that,
Right.
right?
Right.
So if they took that same energy and put it into business, if they put that into development, if they put the, whew, it would just
Sky's
be
the limit.
sky's the limit. And
Yeah.
it's not that boring. I was looking at some property the other day in Wisconsin with another friend who's like-minded, another brother, and we was just joking and talking, but at the same time we were searching for property. He was like, oh no, not that, look at that street, da 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 da. I was like, oh well, what about the two bedrooms and two bed? He's like, oh no. So we were just, but we were also doing business. We were getting things done. and we were using each other's knowledge to bounce back and forth on good property and good ideas, right?
That goes
Look
back
at the
to what
basement.
you're
Look
saying
at the
about being around like-minded people, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's part
yeah.
of your strategy. If you're trying to build something from nothing, you first need to be around like-minded people.
Yeah, to increase the productivity and efficiency and shorten the learning curve. And if you
Mhm.
don't have it, then okay, that would be okay. But it's 2020, you can probably get around it. But if you don't, it's still not a determining factor for you not doing anything. It
Right.
still is an ability. It's just going to be maybe a more bigger learning curve. But nevertheless, in essence, I was just wanting to reiterate that it's not always been peaches and cream, right? And
Right.
of course, I was stupid. I was ignorant. So I'm not out here condemning people like, you ain't investing. You ain't doing this when I wasn't doing it myself when I was younger, right? So, but everybody, I accept that.
Right.
I accept that and say, okay, what can I change now? And what do I do and how to move forward? So I want somebody to really understand that I'm telling you, this is the ultimate sport. This is like the adrenaline rush like no other. You're going to get nervous. You're going to have failures. I know we didn't get to the failure part, and I got some time, so I'm
Oh
going to be
no.
speaking a
If
little
you
bit.
have time, let's speak on the failures too. Yeah,
Yeah, of
please.
course. Yeah,
Yes.
no, I have time. So, of course, I got time. The reason I'm actually on my phone is because I had my laptop, and my laptop busted on me last night. So now I gotta buy a laptop and or a new yeah.
Oh,
So that's why I'm not on my high def camera and all this other stuff
okay.
because I'm like, dang, I got a show tomorrow. So I'm like, oh my god. So I pay for this office space and we work. So I'm like, I'm coming in and using it. I
Right.
pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's got good internet connection and stuff like that. So yeah. So my internet's busted. So I'm not at home to look at the properties and stuff. So whatever. But
Okay.
nevertheless, uh, let me finish out on this point, and then we can move into the failures, if that's okay with you. I know you're the host.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I want to be
Yes.
respectful. So, case in point is just like I said, this is the ultimate sport. It's the ultimate adrenaline rush. It's nothing like it. Investing, being an entrepreneur, even just being somebody who's like, yo, I don't know nothing about it, but I do got a friend that has that mentality and drive. And you could help him and invest maybe capital, right?
Right.
Maybe support, maybe accountability. Like, hey,
Right.
bro, we cutting up because we ain't got no, we a bunch of losers. We ain't got no ideas. But
Right.
come on, bro. You got good ideas, man. You're smart.
Right.
And then just pushing him in a different direction. Even though you be like, look, that ain't for me. That's
Right.
okay for right now, right? So once again, it's so many ways to invest in other people, not just like I said, financial, but like I said, inspirational. And everybody has a background, everybody has a story, but we can do it together.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. So you were going to segue and go back to what you were saying of failure. So my
Mhm.
whole point with talking about the failures is, when people say, well, I don't have a lot of capital, I don't have, a lot of, I guess, time to waste, which we were talking about, you got to take your time to do your due diligence. You have to take your time to research. You have to take your time to vet people and projects and that type of thing. So even when you do all of that, right, you can still pick something or invest in something that doesn't work, and how defeating that can feel, and how do you continue going from there. And maybe you can speak from personal experience about what happened with you and how you were able to keep going and still get to where you are today.
Okay. I'm gonna give everybody three.
Okay.
And it's three mainly because they're like on three different continents. So
Okay,
everybody
perfect.
can be like, okay.
Yeah.
So Brazil, I left, I quit. And I'm gonna give you three, and I'm gonna give you external and internal, meaning that there was a failure on an external factor, and then there
Mhm.
was a failure on mine's internal factor.
Okay.
So I just don't want to, say,
Right.
oh, these are my failures, and it was because somebody, when
Right.
I'm there too, right?
Right.
So I got to take my part. So Brazil, I went into Brazil. I wanted to open up this, just invest in businesses, successful businesses. So there was this one guy, he opened up, he was just starting his own bar. It's called a Bogotec, yeah? And that's what they call bars in Brazil. And his was special because it was the only black owned actually Bogota. Yeah. And Brazil, Salvador, Brazil is like black Brazil. So
Right.
you got to remember how, woof, there is no ownership in bars like that, and you're in black Brazil. Yes, that's how it is. It's pretty. It's in a condition, let's say, right?
Right.
So the guy was like, I'm going to open it, and it was space where everybody could come, but they will own it. Yeah. In Brazil, it's kind of funny too. When they're at the bar, they're drinking. Next thing you know, they're talking about politics. The next thing you know, they're singing out of nowhere. You're like, why is somebody singing? You know, like how did that happen? And everybody's singing, even if they can't sing. So it's just like, what's going on? Like, like it's no music. They're just singing about some song in their history or something. So you're just like, what's going on? And that's just kind of like the Bogota experience, a bar experience for Brazilians, right? Especially in the traditional bars, right? So he was going to build one out, and I was working with him. And I was like, hey, man, let's do it. I met him in a barbershop when I was going to do a video content about a barber who was in the favelas, which is quote unquote the ghetto, right?
Right.
So, nevertheless, he was in the favelas, and then I just filmed him, did a commercial for him, did a promotion for him, and then did a documentary of him. So, and I just did it because that's what I wanted to do. And I met the other guy there, and then we talked and talked, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm opening up my bar." So I went by there, and of course, I was like, "Man, this business is amazing." Da 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 da. Oh, it's a great idea. I gave him some ideas. We shot ideas back and forth, and he was like, "Man, yeah, we need to do that." I mean, I didn't even think about that. So then he started implementing some things, and they were very successful, right? And he was the only young bar owner. All the other bar owners are like old. They got it passed down to them. They're like super old, right? And if it
Uh-huh.
ain't broke, don't fix it type of attitude, right?
Right.
So he was able to, kind of cut them out by just being young, vibrant, using social media. They were coastal, so they were just like, we got tourists, they're gonna come, and we're just gonna get the money and whatever, right?
Right.
So he was able to really do a little bit of things and then just stand out from the pack. So I was like, let's do it. So I was like, man, let's put together this business plan. So I put that together to myself because he was like, I don't know too much about it. So I just took charge and was like, how do I do it? And
Right.
then, of course, I tried to get, of course, him to make it legal. So then I went to the company registration from somebody else I knew. It was four black women who opened up their own restaurant, and she was a successful business owner in the restaurant, and she was a successful business owner and also the company registration. And then she had another furniture business. So she was like a multi-businessman,
Yeah.
businesswoman. So I met her, and then she was like, I got you. So took him to see that, drove in here. I don't speak Portuguese. So I'm out here Google translating, hopping in Ubers and, just going all over the place. Or,
Uh-huh.
where is the fifth floor and where is this office? And then translate and stuff. And they're looking at me like, who are you? Right. And I'm getting all this stuff done. Negotiating with the lawyers, then the lawyers don't come back with the information because they say they got personal problems. So everything's going all over the place, right?
Mhm.
And I couldn't communicate with him, so I was like, "Here's my phone." And like I said, we were doing business together, but he just wasn't ready. He wasn't at a point as an individual person who was really ready to take charge. He was doing it in a way where he was just like, "It is what it is," but he really wasn't ready to take control. I
Okay.
had plans, 3D renderings, but and he wasn't ready. So I was just like, okay, he's not ready as of right now. No hard feelings. In business, try to get out of, oh, you made me do this, man. Especially you just never know where somebody could be later.
Right. Right.
So I was like, okay, no problem, man. I'll just step off. And for my part, there was a lot of things that I saw that he didn't get done, but I gave him excuses because I wanted it so bad.
Right.
You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So I wanted it so bad, I didn't care. I was like, all right, man, you didn't call me. All right, man, you ain't da 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 da. All right, man, you didn't show up with your
But
driver's
it was
license.
a pattern of behavior.
Pattern after pattern after pattern. But I
Yeah.
was just like, I'm trying to be, on this
I've been there.
bar,
I've ignored it.
big bar.
Yeah. Yes. I
You
know.
kept pushing.
Uh-huh.
So that's a judgment. That's a failure to recognize, like you said, a behavioral pattern in the people and the product and process, right? So
Mhm.
then I had to take that L. So I take that L.
Okay.
Let's go up to North America, and I'll keep this story shorter. Met another brother through my sister. He was a good brother. He owned a property management company, massive amount of property. So he was like, "Man, let's do this. let's buy out cribs in Baltimore. We could chop them up. I got them set up. Some already got managed. We could buy them off the guy, and we could basically rent out the rooms per week. Da 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 da. And I was like, yo, the numbers are good. I don't know. So I told
Right.
him like, yo, if the numbers add up, then just let me see the ledger. Let me see your records so I can see the rent that you used to charge. I want to see proof of concept, right? He's like,
Mhm.
man, my friend's doing it, da 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 da. So I was like, let's do it. So, we went around, checked out all these properties in Baltimore, saw the ones, saw where we could do it. And then, next thing you know, we're negotiating. We built the business. Things didn't work out on that. Just the way he kind of like structured it, right? He didn't have me as a registered agent, da 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 da. But then he had to redo it because it was just stuff, right? So we took care of it. And so it comes down to closing. We got the earnest money deposit, like the little deposit we put in to work towards the deal to go under contract. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, let's hand that in. Yo, let me, because I was financing everything because he didn't really have the capital at that time,
Story of
which
my
is
life.
which is not bad. Yeah,
Right.
sometimes because he had the expertise, he had the knowledge, he had the
Right.
connect, he had different capital that under the technical terms of the company, right? His
Right.
capital contribution wasn't so much currency, but it was the currency of his experience, labor, and connections, networking, right? Because he knew the wholesalers, he knew these guys, so he had that. Yeah, and that's hard to get in real estate. Just
Yes.
people who got portfolios of property. So I was like, all right, cool, no problem. And then I was like, hey man, remember he was going to give us 3 houses, and they were like 5 bedrooms in Baltimore, and he was going to sell it to us for 60,000 because they weren't performing, right? So I was like, yo, let's see if we can get 45. Yeah. He's like, you sure, man? Da 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 da. I was like, yo, yeah, let's do it because it was my money. I'm like, let's go for 45. And then the guy was like, all right, I'll take 45, whatever. Right? He was like, oh man, he took it. So I was like, hey man, but I still need the receipts. I still need the ledger, right? Oh
Mhm.
yeah, I'm gonna get that to you. Let's get this deal done. Da, da, da. And I was like, no, 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 man. Remember, I told you at the beginning. I sent them the text message. I sent them the email. I said, look, I said, hey, this is what I need in order for us to move forward and do the deal. But you told me like you're going to get it done and da da da.
Right.
So he made up all these other things. I don't know why. I'm not saying he's a liar. I'm not going to put that on him. I don't know.
Right.
But it just end result, I didn't get it. So at the end of the day, I had to back out that deal. And he was very mad. He was very, X, Y, and Z. He felt some type of way. I don't know if it was mad, but he felt some type of way. But for me, it was just like also my problem. I
Right.
should have been more specific. I should have demanded and said we can't move
Start.
forward unless
Yeah.
I get this and I need it. After I saw that it was being delayed, 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 I should have did it well in advance before a property got put and we started negotiating with a seller, right? Because of course I didn't want to make him look bad. That wasn't my intention. But he said he was going to give it to me, and so on my part, I really could have made sure that was done before we moved into talks and negotiations with the seller. So
Right.
that was mine. I took it. His was what it was, right? So moved to the African continent. Now
Okay.
we're in Africa.
Before you go to Africa, there's a question about that.
Yeah, go
Someone
ahead.
says, how do you all recommend that you visit and learn another country before investing or starting a business? And
Complete
he's talking about the continent of Africa.
continent of Africa. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely fine. Completely fine. I don't see no problem with that. I visited Kenya twice before this last time I was about to tell you about. Of course, when
Okay.
I was there, I tried to do business the first time and the second time, and
So
just because
so
that
go
was
into
just what I
that.
was doing.
What happened when you went with that failure? Because this is part
Mhm.
of you figuring out you can do a business, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
this one failure was, of course, I went in. We tried to do a clothing company, and then I told you the media company, yeah.
Yes.
And I would just do both of them because they were brothers and sisters. So, so I did the I did the first one, and I mean, this sister was amazing. Like I'm still gonna try to get it. I'm still not gonna give up on her, right?
Uh-huh.
Because she was really more so an artist. So I look at back on my old self. I'm like, I got to take charge on these things more so because she's
Right.
really just an artist. She's really, but she's not so much in the details of like how things are going to get done on the business. So I kind of put too much on her without giving her enough training or giving her an opportunity to train herself in those ways, right?
Okay.
So, and that was what I look back on, and then but she used to make these like clothes, whether they were suits, they were dresses, whatever those females call like sundresses and other things. But I'm
Hmm.
telling you, how no disrespect, You know how some clothing from the motherland, they be having like the whole thing is a dashiki and it's oversized and stuff like
Yes.
this. And then the
Yes.
fabric maybe get loose or something. So with her stuff though, it was like subtle, it was infused, it was nice, it was casual. It was something that you could wear at a business dinner, you could wear at a meeting, you can wear out just to dress up, you know, what people say grown and sexy, that
Right.
would exactly be it. Or like I said, business. So she
Okay.
was able just to infuse it like that. Man, I wish I had one of these the things like her dress, but she wouldn't want me to show it. But her
Okay.
dress, where it was just like gorgeous. She was just
Okay.
flawless at it. And even when I, like I said, I have a couple of shirts she made for me, and I still have them. They haven't worn, they haven't torn. They were great fabric. The way they were infused, it was just amazing. So we try to do that. And like I said, my issue was not providing her the training, you know, trying to throw her so much as an artist and as a designer into the field of being an entrepreneur, right? Like
Okay.
operate the business, okay?
Right.
What's the underlying cost? What's the da 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 da? And though she needed to learn it, she just needed some time and a program towards mapping it out. Because you
Uh,
remember, so Africans still got a life too.
right.
So balancing her regular life and then trying to, you know, basically, and also I could have rolled it out in different phases. But I was like, let's pull this guy out of the textile center. Let's get him into a building. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I kind of did have a lot of capital. So I was just like, let's just do it. When I could have rolled it out in phases and then
Okay.
slowly made it work. So, but with a brother, like I said, also not going into really seeing his side, really seeing that, you know, he's an engineer. He has a lot of pressure coming from his family and them not
Right.
wanting to him to, you know, leave and do this other stuff. So I could have
Right.
took my time, right? And I did have a business plan to go to Nigeria, not Kenya. And there was reasons for that because Nigerians, you know, as far as real estate goes, really do well in, you know, video production for real estate. And
Hmm.
they, if you know Nigeria, they have a great, you know, real estate industry. They
Yes.
own a lot of their companies. They own their construction companies. They own a lot of land. So they own the industries. And so, you know, most of the time when it's a foreigner who owns something in Africa, and then you got the, you know, market corner, they're not really looking for the marketing and media like that. They're like, yeah, we're good.
Right.
But for somebody who's from the nation and trying to grow the business, and you know, they're more so looking for the brand and the marketing. Yeah. I remember
Mhm.
one girl in Nigeria, her name is Eden Oasis. I'm just gonna give her a shout out. She
Uh-huh.
started doing high quality videos for the properties that she's showing in land deals. And her property sells out like that because people can visualize, they can see what they're
Right.
buying
Right.
versus some janky photo from the cell phone and they're like, buy this, you know, $100,000 house. Like, no, I'm good.
Right.
But when
Right.
they see the fine, high definition explanation of everything that's going on, she does like gives you a due diligence. So you
Right.
know a lot. Now you just got to verify it.
Okay.
So she sells great. So once again, that's what I was trying to bring. And I had my mind on my market, but because my friend was like, let's try Kenya. And just because he wanted to just stay there, you know, I was
Yeah.
like, let's do it. So those were the lessons and the failures that I learned. And then, like I said, I always look back and say, what was my role? What did I play? Right. And of course, I got down on myself many of times. I'd be depressed, like, man, I can't make this real estate thing work. I can't,
Yeah.
I'm always messing up. Yeah, and then, you know, I sleep it off, get some R&R. So the most important thing about being an entrepreneur and investor is to plan R&R, relaxation and resting, right? No different than the military. They used to send soldiers into war and then they have to plan, you know, 3 months out, we bring them back and let them go to Thailand and relax.
Right.
Because if
Right.
we keep them down there for 7, 8 months straight,
They're
they're
gonna go
good. They're no
crazy.
good to nobody. They're
Right.
no good for nobody.
Right.
So the same thing is approaching business and approaching. Sometimes you gotta relax, come out of it, get away from it. Because if you don't and you just stay in and you keep trying to make it work, you're gonna run yourself tired. You're gonna
Yep.
be like, I quit, I can't do this, yeah. And that might not necessarily be the truth. You just need to come up for some air and relax a little bit. And then now you come back with a fresh pair of eyes and you're like, I didn't see that. And then,
Right.
and another one is really on personal. I did a deal with a lady who she didn't want to do a factory. She wanted to do a different type of factory for a different type of product. And we went out just to have like, you know, just like to talk and get to know each other, right?
Mhm.
And something came up and I got in my feelings and she got in her feelings. And instead of me just being like, I'm gonna be honest, instead of being a man at that point and just letting it fall to the wayside, I was like, you know what? We feel like that, then we good, you know? We ain't
Uh-huh.
gonna do business together. And she was a great person. She had desire, she had things. Yeah, there's gonna be some confrontation and conflicts on ideas. Not even an idea. It had nothing to do with the business. It had something to do with something else. So I was
Right.
just like, I didn't have to, get in my emotions, get in my unbalance myself like that. But I did. So I had to look at myself and say, hey man, next time you do something like that, don't do nothing like that, right?
Right.
Learn how to control yourself, your emotions, balance it. And of course, I didn't yell or nothing like that, but I was a little bit out of pocket. Just saying like I don't want to do nothing with you because if you think like that's not true, she could still been a great business partner. She was going to
Right.
be one.
Right.
So we developed our relationship and build it back, and we're going. But we missed a lot of time that we could have been building the platform out. But nevertheless, I had to take my ownership in that. Of course, she did or she didn't. It's irrelevant. I can control myself and what I do and how I organize myself. So, like I said, I just hold that dear in my lessons of losses. I always say you turn your losses to lessons and turn your lessons into blessings. That's your
Oh, I
most
love
deadliest
that.
weapon. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So
Losses into lessons and your lessons into
into
blessings.
blessings. Yeah. And if
I
you're a
love
little bit edgy, then you can say that's your most deadliest weapon.
Yeah, I love it. So Dickinson Adventures, they were asking about visiting to learn the country before investing or starting a business. So I know we touched upon that earlier. So one thing I would say is maybe watch the replay, but also just to give you a quick some summary of what we were saying is he was really recommending like doing your due diligence, which comes down to research and making sure that you are physically going to see the properties if you can, that you're vetting these people, that you're making sure that you ask for like their license of or whatever paperwork you can get from them in that country. I personally always say that you need to visit the country, I would think at least 1 to 3 times before you're starting a business, and you need to stay at least, I say, 30 days so that you can really get an understanding. Because like in Tanzania, for example, I can just only speak for like Tanzania and Eswatini. Those are the two I know the best. But things just move slow in Tanzania. It, like they said, there's no hurry in Africa. I mean, they just move slow. So going there for like a week, in my opinion, is not really going to show you much, because people don't always keep their appointment times like they're supposed to. People don't always show up when they're supposed to. So a good month will give you a good understanding of like the business you're going to do, the people you're talking to get in front of certain people and get things accomplished. That's always my recommendation. As far as if you're going to a foreign country that you don't know, I think you need to be there at least a month if you can. If you can't, you need to go back more than one time. So would you concur with that? Do you think that sounds right? Or do you have a different approach?
I had a different, but then I thought it was like, that's when you said those words. Uh, when I was in Salvador, Brazil, that wasn't the fact I was worried about. I was trying to get things done. Yeah. And of course, I'm not intolerant to culture because I've been overseas so long. So I wasn't like, oh, I mean, but dang, I've been all over the world. But, in Salvador, Brazil, I think it was like it was 2 weeks they had a holiday. It was almost like the whole thing.
Yeah,
I was like, dang, what you mean? Like a holiday just straight for two? They said, yes, this thing, that. I said, I done came at the wrong time. He was like, yeah, you did.
yes,
So it was just a block by block of holidays. And plus two in Salvador, Brazil, it's I'm not saying this is good or bad because I don't want to be one of those people who come from the West and like, y'all ain't on our time, man. Come on.
right, right,
That's how people operate. That's how they operate. You have to
right,
adjust. But nevertheless, it's the coastal area. It's the beach. It's the yeah. So people they're not just like they're
no,
not going to be acting like Manhattan, point A to
correct.
point
No,
B,
they're
and
not.
just
No.
zooming. They don't do that. So with that being said, that's the energy, and you got to respect it because when you could come at it, good thing I've like been in different cultures, but I could imagine one of my friends he came down there and he hasn't been overseas so long, so he would be very abrasive to people because he's like, I don't care. And it's like, that's not the right holiday to say that
No,
to, okay? So just
yeah,
relax, all right? You know,
yeah,
so you got to learn that. You can still get some things done, but if you go about it the right way, even somebody who says, yeah, this is traditionally a holiday, I shouldn't be talking to you, but they're like, you know what? I got you. I'm going to do it for you. Just give me
correct,
some time.
correct. And that's understanding the culture,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
yeah, and that I feel like you kind of have to be there to kind of feel things out and
Hmm.
to know when you can push and know when you need to pull back. And that's
Exactly.
a big part of understanding the culture. So I think, well, that's all I had for this episode. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate you coming on. I know my subscribers, the ones that have made it, have said, they really, really appreciate this. Somebody was saying, I like this. This is very informational. Inspirational. Another person said that he fixes computers, laptops with the knowledge you have dropped freely. He would have spent hours fixing your computer freely. So thanks so much for this, brother. He is very knowledgeable. That's our South
Appreciate it.
African brother. So
Oh, shout outs to South Africa.
shout out to South Africa. So, like I said, this is not going to be. This is the one of a series I plan to do on my channel. Outside of just marketing my businesses and doing the fun YouTube, showing my family and that kind of stuff. I'm committed to
Beautiful
having
family.
an entrepreneurship, episodes to help others out there. I just want to close this by saying make sure you check out Black Ambassadors YouTube channel. And right now it's Black Ambassadors. Subscribe now, because if he changes the name later, you'll already be there. So go ahead and subscribe now.
Please.
He has dropped his email information. So if you want to get in touch with him directly, his email has been saved on here, as well as it's on his YouTube channel. On the About section, you can just go in there and you can contact him directly. He is would it be fair to say you're a global investor? You're in more than one country, right?
I'll take
Uh,
that.
okay, yes. He is a global investor, as well as someone who wants to mentor others and inspire others to reach their greatness as well. So, and I think that's one big reason, or one feeling I got when I came across your channel, which is reading about you. I could tell I like people that I always say are willing to give a hand up. Not necessarily just a hand out, because I think a hand up does a lot. It's much more impactful. Someone just said, great show, Ebonie. Hey, there's going to be more. And he
Agreed.
said he's coming back. So you'll be back for another episode, and we can
Yes,
talk
ma'am.
about whatever we couldn't cover this time. We will cover more and more, because I'm sure usually there's questions afterwards that people can leave. So leave any questions or comments on this video in this comment section if you guys have any that you want us to answer for the next time that he's here. Would be great. And you are in what country right now?
Israel. Israel.
Israel. I have not been there. I've been to China. You mentioned China, but Israel is on my list. I would love to visit there.
Yeah, yes. Now I was gonna go over, but yeah, yeah. It's a place. It's a place that you could come to. Um, but definitely go to Africa. Not
Yeah.
you specifically. I'm just talking to anybody
No, in
out there.
general, yes. I
Yeah,
tell people
in
all the time, I'm
general.
like, don't tell me you've been to
And
Paris and London and all these places and you haven't been to Africa
yeah,
yet.
yeah. I think two big places that we should go way more is Africa. And then if I had to second another place, and of course we Africa continent, yeah, okay, somewhere in Africa, all right. I'm not
Right.
gonna tell you where.
Somewhere. Pick
Uh,
one.
and also Asia. And I
Yes.
say that specifically because, and I'll just say this real short, is that being a global investor requires you to dispel a lot of myths, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of biases that are already situated in you, and you didn't even really, you don't even like, look, I never even been to China.
Right.
How I'm gonna talk about it, right?
Right.
And especially 1.4 billion people, that's a lot of people, right?
That's a lot of
And
people.
and as of right now, Asians stand to be at 60% of the human race in the planet right now. So it's a vast, large market, and they even get more interconnected, more interregional, and they're even more connected. I know we hear Africa for Africans, but there was a long time ago a thing called Asia for Asians. And they did
Right.
that a long time ago, and they've slowly over the years have been building it up. So just to go there and experience countries and nations with great culture, great customs also, but also to come from where they were to what you would see in the present is a vast, it's a lesson that you can learn, and there's a lot of things that you could see and experience that are undescribable. So like I said, I know I'm here in Israel and that's cool and all, but I'm not trying to disrespect it, but I'm just saying that
Right.
Africa, and definitely second, Asia, is a place where you could go and learn a lot of amazing things.
I completely agree. I mean, I think a big part of my entrepreneurial journey and being able to make the connections that I've made is because I started traveling internationally at 15 and didn't stop there. And so I've always been able to connect with people from all over the world on some level of understanding of different cultures. And,
Mm-hmm.
the minute people realize that either you've been to their country or you have an understanding of their culture, they open up so much more than if you don't. And then you don't have to. If for people that they don't have the money to travel there, like you said, go on the internet. You can learn a lot. I mean, my kids right now, just when we do world geography, we go on YouTube and watch videos on different places in the world. So you can learn a lot just through doing your own, like you said, due diligence.
Yeah.
Just expose yourself to other cultures, other ways, other um, what means of how people do things is one thing I say about just investing in Africa. For instance, when people ask me about investing in Tanzania, the first question I ask them is like, what do you know about the culture?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Tanzanians and most African countries, most people in Africa in general are impressed by Westerners that have a little bit of an understanding of their culture. So I completely agree with you on that aspect. It's broadening your mindset and understanding that wherever you're located, you're like one little minuscule of the piece of the puzzle as far as the global market. And you can be more successful if you are able to connect with people all over the world versus just one place. Because
Mm-hmm.
you never know. One thing I've learned in traveling is you can't judge a book by a cover. You don't know who you are encountering and what assets they might have that contribute to your journey. So,
Yes, ma'am.
that's a big one. So, any final thoughts before I let you go? This has been amazing. I thank you so much for coming on. I don't want to thank you too much because you're coming back.
Yeah, yeah. Or, it's not a separation forever. I will be back. And we could break out many things, especially, like I said, I definitely want to get more into on the actual channel. I do show how to's. So, all these things, whether it's looking up via government websites to actually verify that these private corporations are registered, you don't have to ask for anything. I walk you through it, specifically places like Kenya, to where you find out that information yourself, right? And then also to lawyer firms that you can go to learn way more, to get a consultation, right? Also to the links on how to find these actual different development projects, links to how, and I show you literally on the screen, shared screen, that you see step by step the process that you could go through. And once you learn that process for specifically Kenya, not saying it's the same for every country, but there's some similarities and things that can connect that they're going to have. They might not be so advanced, or they might not have it on the internet, but you'll get the grasp of things. And it's kind of like, even though you go county to county in America, they usually have a map called GSI, and then you
Right.
could look up the property information there, or they have something similar, even though it's a different website, different thing, it might be, structured a little bit different, but you can see the similarities, and keep doing it. So, like I said, you get to see the how to, and then I go to the inspirational to just kind of give people some inspiration about different things, but it revolves around tech, traveling, and then, like I said, travel with a purpose. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are traveling on YouTube. That's good,
Right.
but it's great to travel with a purpose. And I mean a purpose, whether it's a cultural purpose for you, or whether it's also a business purpose and a nationalistic purpose, right? Look at the country, look at the railway system, the transportation, look at Thailand, how massive amounts of Thai people are entrepreneurs and businesses in their own right, whether they're selling a bag of soda, like, Fanta in a bag,
Right.
or, roaches that have been barbecued,
Right.
or, or, noodles on this corner. All these little people are businessmen and businesswomen. And you're like, God dang, everybody got a cart, everybody got a business, everybody out here selling. So
Right.
even though they probably couldn't go work in the corporate office, they said that we're going to be working. So it's just everywhere. So you
Mm-hmm.
see that and experience that, and you're like, well, this is its own economy in its own. You might be a tourist and go down to Thailand and go to Hard Rock Cafe, but most of all tourists are going to eat the noodles on the street, right?
Right.
So the
Right.
locals really get the corner of the market because they're like, yeah, we're getting all this tourists, but we're going to get tourist money because we have so many small businesses that people want that are more authentic and more of
Right.
a exotic experience versus
People
going to,
want that local,
Hard Rock Cafe.
right. They want the local,
Exactly.
like people when they travel, they don't want to just go to another McDonald's when they have McDonald's at home. They want the local
Exactly.
experience. Yes.
And, and,
Yeah.
and, and they acknowledge that and they corner those markets themselves. So it's a great experience and you get to see that. And then you get to look at things in Africa and you're like, well, if we brought something, and then you could see and you can start, plucking away and you'll say, wow, okay, we can use this. We don't need that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'll be glad to come on to another channel. Once again, I want to give respects to you for inviting me to the channel. Of course, for everything that you do in your content. Of course, showing your beautiful Black family. I think that's something amazing too, because people get to see that, right? So
Mhm.
it's not like we're loving hip hop or nothing like that. And I think that information needs to be out there, right? A
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
and a loving family and a traveling family, an experienced family that are in roles where we usually don't get to see. But, times have changed, right?
Yes.
So the
Yes.
new era is here. So we will get to see it. So I appreciate for all your empowering content that you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I always say together we can change the world, right? So
Facts.
that's amazing. And yeah, I want to remind people he does have those how-to videos. I've seen a few of them already. I haven't gone through all of them yet, but just the ones I've gone through, they're amazing. So some of these questions that you all have asked me, and this is part of the reason why I wanted to start this series, because like I said, I'm just one person with my perspective. There's so many people out there that can share and help. And he is one of them. He has videos that literally walk you through how to do some of the things that you guys have asked me about, like, finding the legal help, finding the people that can tell you whether or not this business is viable. So that's another resource. Someone asked me specifically, what resources do I recommend? Here it is. Here's your resource. This is one big resource that I would recommend. So keep that in mind. We'll keep this series going, and then you all drop some comments or questions that you have for him specifically, so that the next time he comes back, we can talk about all that as well, and maybe dive a little deeper into some other questions that people have. Because I know, like here, some people are still asleep. It's still a little early here, so
Yeah, they'll watch the playback.
yeah, let them watch the playback and wake up a little bit, and then the next time we can dive a little deeper too.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the meantime, stay safe in Israel.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
sounds like an interesting place. If I come, I'm only coming if you're there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I got you.
Yeah, so you can show us around.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
we like going to new places. And like I said, check out Black Ambassadors. That's his YouTube channel. I'll have the link on here as well. His contact information is there as well. And just thank you for your time. I so appreciate it. And like I said, I'm not saying goodbye until next time.
Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Good morning on this side and good evening on your side.
Got it.
Got it.